1929 and 1932, the income of the average American family was reduced by 40%. 9 million savings accounts were wiped out between 1930 and 1933. 273,000 families were evicted from their homes in 1932. 2 million homeless people were migrating around the country. Partly due to prohibition, criminal activities and organized crime had increased. The lack of full-time employment caused by the Great Depression led many people into a life of crime from which they would never return. 13 million people became unemployed. In 1932, 34 million people belonged to families with no regular full-time wage earner. By 1933, 11,000 of the 25,000 banks had failed. Between 1929 and 1933, GDP fell around 30%. The stock market lost almost 90% of its value. Over 1 million families lost their farms between 1930 and 1934. In 1930, 19-year-old Bonnie Parker meets 21-year-old Clyde Barrow in West Dallas. Bonnie and Clyde were two young people who came of age during the Great Depression. Raised in the industrial slum of West Dallas, which was a maze of tent cities and shacks without running water, gas, or electricity, set on dirt streets amid smokestacks, oil refineries, plants, quarries, lagoons, tank farms, and burrow pits on the Trinity River floodplain. These squalid conditions breed diseases, poverty, and crime. Despite these conditions, Bonnie Parker won a literary contest in school. Later, Bonnie uses her talent to write a few poems about life as a criminal and a girl from the wrong side of town. Clyde's criminal activities start when he is 17. He is arrested by the Dallas police when he fails to return a rental car. Clyde is arrested again with his brother Buck for stealing turkeys. Clyde worked at some regular jobs during this period but was also cracking safes, robbing stores, and stealing cars. Clyde is sent outside Houston to the Eastman Prison Farm in Lovelady, Texas. Clyde is sexually assaulted in the prison and murders the man. Another inmate serving a life sentence confesses to the crime. Clyde is released from prison. His sister Marie recalls that Clyde's time in prison forever changed him into somebody she didn't recognize on his return. After prison, Clyde, Robert Fultz, and Bonnie rob stores and gas stations. Clyde doesn't want fame or fortune but to get revenge on the Texas prison system for his incarceration. He plans to attack the prison. In one of many robberies, Bonnie and Robert Fultz are arrested in Kaufman, Texas, trying to burglarize a hardware store. During this time in the Kaufman County Jail, Bonnie wrote a book of poems. Bonnie is released after a few months, but Fultz is sent to prison and never rejoins them. On August 5, 1932, just a few months out of prison, Clyde and two other men opened fire on the sheriff and his deputy. The deputy was killed, and the sheriff was gravely injured. The deputy was the first lawman killed by the gang. On Christmas Eve in Dallas, W.D. Jones, a family friend of the Barrows, joins Bonnie and Clyde and leaves Dallas. W.D. is 17 years old. He becomes part of the gang but will eventually leave. He tries to lay low on a farm outside of Houston. He is ultimately arrested and taken back to Dallas, where he writes out a confession. Clyde had coached him on what to say if he was captured, blame it all on Clyde. In March 1933, Buck Barrow was released from prison. He and his wife Blanche join up with Clyde and Bonnie in Joplin, Missouri. The group lives in a quiet residential neighborhood, but they are anything but peaceful. The local police think they are dealing with bootleggers and send 2 cars with 5 people to the house. The gang opens fire, kills 2 officers, and flees. The gang left all of their possessions in the house as they fled. The police find Buck's parole papers, Bonnie's camera, rolls of undeveloped film, and a large weapons stash. The police develop the film containing Bonnie's photo with the cigar in her mouth, and the images hit the newswires. The photo of Parker posing with a cigar and a gun became popular. Jeff Gwynne, in his book, Go Down Together, The True, Untold Story of Bonnie and Clyde, noted, John Dillinger had matinee idol good looks, and Pretty Boy Floyd had the best possible nickname. Still, the Joplin photos introduced new criminal superstars with the most titillating trademark of all, illicit sex. Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker were wild and young and undoubtedly slept together. The publication of the photos of Bonnie and Clyde makes it impossible for the gang to stay anywhere except their car and, on occasion, with a relative. Clyde misses a detour sign and flips their vehicle over, causing battery acid to pour onto Bonnie's leg. The third-degree burn leaves Bonnie with a limp. The notoriety, combined with law enforcement's constant pursuit and lack of medical attention for wounds and injuries, takes its toll on the gang. In July 1933, in a shootout with police in Iowa, Buck is killed, and Blanche is captured. Bonnie and Clyde continue on. In January 1934, Clyde attacked the Eastman prison farm to get Raymond Hamilton out. 4 other prisoners took the opportunity to leave and killed one guard. One of the escapees, Henry Methvin of Louisiana, joins Bonnie and Clyde. Raymond Hamilton and Clyde argue, and Raymond leaves the gang, only to be recaptured in April 1934. The attack on the prison gets the Texas Rangers to order a shoot-on-sight mandate for Bonnie and Clyde. The FBI found Bonnie and Clyde and the Methvin family had staged a party at Black Lake, Louisiana, and were due to return to the area in 2 days. A posse of Texas Rangers and other law officers concealed themselves in bushes near the highway near Sales, Louisiana. In the early daylight, Bonnie and Clyde appeared in an automobile, and when they attempted to drive away, the officers opened fire. Bonnie and Clyde were killed instantly. Bonnie Parker Poems. The Trail's End. You've read the story of Jesse James. Of how he lived and died. If you're still in need of something to read, here's the story of Bonnie and Clyde. Now Bonnie and Clyde are the Barrow gang. I'm sure you all have read how they rob and steal. And those who squeal are usually found dying or dead. There's lots of untruths to these write-ups. They're not as ruthless as that. Their nature is raw. They hate all the law. The stool pigeons, spotters, and rats. They call them cold-blooded killers. They say they are heartless and mean. But I say this with pride, that I once knew Clyde, when he was honest and upright and clean. But the law fooled around, kept taking him down, and locking him up in a cell, till he said to me, I'll never be free. So I'll meet a few of them in hell. The road was so dimly lighted. There were no highway signs to guide. But they made up their minds. If all roads were blind, they wouldn't give up till they died. The road gets dimmer and dimmer. Sometimes you can hardly see. But it's fight man to man. And do all you can. For they know they can never be free. From heartbreak some people have suffered. From weariness some people have died. But take it all in all, our troubles are small. Till we get like Bonnie and Clyde. If a policeman is killed in Dallas, and they have no clue or guide, if they can't find a fiend, they just wipe their slate clean and hang it on Bonnie and Clyde. There's 2 crimes committed in America, not accredited to the Barrow mob. They had no hand in the kidnap demand, nor the Kansas City depot job. A newsboy once said to his buddy, I wish old Clyde would get jumped. In these awful hard times, we'd make a few dimes. If 5 or 6 cops would get bumped. The police haven't got the report yet. But Clyde called me up today. He said, don't start any fights. We aren't working nights. We're joining the NRA. from Irving to West Dallas Viaduct, is known as the Great Divide, where the women are kin, and the men are men, and they won't stool on Bonnie and Clyde. If they try to act like citizens, and rent them a nice little flat, about the third night, they are invited to fight by a sub-gun's rat-tat-tat. They don't think they are too smart or desperate. They know that the law always wins. They've been shot at before, but they do not ignore that death is the wages of sin. Someday they'll go down together. They'll bury them side by side. To few it'll be grief, to the law a relief, but it's death for Bonnie and Clyde.
Street with a girl I ain't ever seen. All my friends have told me, girl, you ain't the only one, only one. Now my heart is hurting, my thoughts just keep turning. I'm a loaded gun.
The street girl. You don't want to marry me, honey, though just to hear you ask me is sweet. If you did, you'd regret it tomorrow, for I'm only a girl of the street. Time was when I'd gladly have listened. Before I was tainted with shame. But it wouldn't be fair to you, honey. Men laugh when they mention my name. Back there on the farm in Nebraska. I might have said yes to you then. But I thought the world was a playground. Just teeming with Santa Claus men. So I left the old home for the city. To play in its mad, dirty whirl. Never knowing how little of pity it holds for a slip of a girl. You think I'm still good looking, honey. But no, I am faded and spent. Even Helen of Troy would look seedy if she followed the pace I went. But that day I came in from the country, with my hair down my back in a curl. Through the length and the breadth of the city, there was never a prettier girl. I soon got a job in the chorus, with nothing but looks and a form. I had a new man every evening, and my kisses were thrilling and warm. I might have sold them for a fortune to some old sugar daddy with dough. But youth called to youth for its lover. There was plenty that I didn't know. Then I fell for the line of a junker, a slim devotee of hop, and those dreams in the juice of a poppy had got me before I could stop. But I didn't care while he loved me. Just to lie in his arms was a delight. But his ardor grew cold and he left me in a Chinatown hop joint one night. Well, I didn't care then what happened. A chink took me under his wing, and down there in a hovel of hell, I labored for hop and arsing. Oh no, I'm no longer a junker. The police came and got me one day, and I took the one cure that is certain. That island out there in the bay. Don't spring that old gag of reforming. A girl hardly ever goes back. Too many are eager and waiting to guide her feet off of the track. A man can break every commandment, and the world will still lend him a hand. Yet a girl that has loved, but unwisely, is an outcast all over the land. You see how it is, don't you, honey? I'd marry you now if I could. I'd go with you back to the country. But I know it won't do any good. For I'm only a poor branded woman, and I can't get away from the past. Goodbye and God bless you for asking. But I'll stick out now till the last.
Easy as water flowing down the river. Easy, your love on my mind. The sun keeps on shining, the light that keeps